Hey guys, welcome back to another one of my The Blacklist videos and my review and theory video when it comes to the 8th and 9th episodes of the 6th season of the series. However though, this is not really your usual or regular review because over here I'm not really reviewing the two episodes, but rather using the events of both of them in order to eliminate one of the three dominant theories. I mean, one of them does include a lot more theories underneath it, but the three dominant ones are Raymond is just the real Raymond, Raymond is Katarina, and Raymond is someone completely different, neither Red nor Katarina. Now, I did expect answers out of the 8th episode. I mean, the trope of the series is that the 8th episode is usually the close of an arc, or something similar, like it always kind of gives us. Every 8th episode of every season kind of gives us a resolution to an arc. Then we move on to another arc that's either related to the arc before it, or one that's completely new. This episode gave us no real answers, it gave us partial answers, but it did confirm, at least to me, that Raymond is definitely not Katarina. Gonna be talking about that in detail, and I know a lot of us are gonna bend over backwards to try and prove that everything said on this episode meant that Raymond was Katarina. But the truth is, it does not. Every single piece of evidence that I've seen so far that does try to aim at proving that Raymond is Katarina is actually circumstantial at best. And in a lot of cases, it's actually contradictive with other pieces of evidence out of the series itself. I'll say it right now though, and I'll mention it again at the end of this video. I think that the chances that Raymond is the real deal, the real Raymond Reddington, have just dropped by a decent amount. I mean, I used to think it was like 80% chance he's gonna be the real Raymond Reddington, but right now I think it's a 50-50 chance. He's either Raymond Reddington or someone completely different, neither Raymond nor Katarina. But to get started on all the evidence that we did collect out of this episode and start discussing theories as well, let's go for number 1. Elizabeth knows I was once someone else. That was the statement made by Reddington over the phone to Dembe as of the beginning of the 2-hour event. Elizabeth knows I was once someone else. I mean, is that possible confirmation that he's not really Reddington? Yes, that's a possibility, but there's also this other possibility. Now here is one thing that I've noticed about the Blacklist over so many seasons so far, especially after season 2. The series is not always careful about the kind of dialogue that they do present us with. Except for the case of James Spader or Raymond Reddington, the dialogue is always perfect. The words are kind of hand-picked, very well selected, very well chosen, and they always insinuate something. So when he says, Elizabeth knows I was once someone else, that could actually go so many ways. Like, I was once someone else, like I lived my life as someone else, and then I transformed into this other person. That could be the meaning of once, or it could also translate into once as in one of those times, like I used to be Raymond Reddington, then became this someone else, then I went back to being Raymond Reddington. I know, it does sound a little bit crazy, but I'm going to be discussing this in detail when I'm presenting my theory at the end of this video, so just wait until then before you start judging. But number 2, Brett talking about saving Jennifer's life. I mean, possible confirmation that Jennifer is who she says she is, which kind of throws my theory that Jennifer is not really the real Jennifer Reddington completely out of the window. There's also a certain tone of concern to his voice when he's talking to Dembe about her, like he cares. Now that could probably be all about the underdog bit that Cooper discussed with him at the end of episode 7, or it could be actual fatherly concern. I'll stick with the first bit though, because I did state early on, my confidence in him being the real Red is definitely partially shook than it was a week ago. But number 3 though, now this is not the exact way the statement was said, I'm kinda combining both of them, but I never spoke to Mr. Reddington or the Russian woman who arranged for him to have the procedure. Now the look on the face of Marguerite Renard did indicate she knows her name, the name of the woman who arranged for the procedure, and it indicates that she does know more than she's letting on. So I am in total agreement with the analysis of Jennifer at the end of the first hour of the 2-hour event. But however, we also need to consider that by the time that Jennifer spoke to Renard, she did not really lie to her. She might have not told her everything that she knows, but nonetheless she didn't really lie to her, because at the time, Dembe hasn't gotten yet to Marguerite. But there are so many things we can tell out of that statement, so number 4, she didn't really speak to either of them, neither Reddington or whoever he was, nor Katarina. That doesn't really imply that she didn't see the two of them. As a matter of fact, it does imply that she actually saw the two, she just never had a conversation with either of the two. By the way, and before we make a meaningless argument out of this in the comments the words you're looking for to support the idea that Reddington is Katarina in this situation is I never met, rather than I never spoke to. There's also this little detail that you need to focus on, which is the fact that Dembe informs Red over the phone that Renard informed Jennifer that Katarina arranged the procedure. So everyone, and at the moment including Red and Dembe, are in agreement that Katarina's role in all of this is all about arranging the procedure. Nothing more, nothing less. But there's really more to her statement. So number 5, she did see the woman, the Russian woman, who arranged for the procedure, and we now know that's Katarina Rostova. She did as well see the person that Reddington was before he became Reddington, just never spoke to him before or after the surgery. So she wouldn't really know who he was before the surgery, or at the very least she does know, but she doesn't want to tell. Remember, she's a nurse, she assisted Koehler. Actually, the first time we heard of her, she was referred to as his assistant back in the day, which means that she could easily have at least attested to whether or not Reddington was originally a woman, but she did not do that either. You need to note as well that number 6, she never actually implied how major or minor the changes were to Reddington, or whoever he was, which does leave us with all the possibilities and the options still wide open, maybe with different weights, but still wide open, except of course for the option that he's Katarina Rostova, because for me that's completely out of the window. But number 7 though, even though I'm attesting to the fact that Jennifer is probably Jennifer Reddington and I might have been completely wrong about her since the beginning, we just cannot deny that she's still as shady as always. I mean, she did involve Liz in all of this, she was on her case to try and get Reddington, even when Liz seemed to regret turning him in, not like that option that they went for. She was the one who was on her case, trying to convince her that this was the right thing to do. She was the orchestrator of all of this really. So Jennifer encourages Liz to screw Red over, and then she's afraid to actually take any steps herself. She has set up Liz and gotten her deep enough, and is now leaving her to deal with the aftermath, including by the way the possible wrath of Reddington once he does find out that Liz set him up. Now the interesting part about all of this is she did leave Liz, or decide to leave Liz, in the middle of their adventure together right after she promised her to lead her to Renard. Interestingly enough, that was one scene before she decided to leave, and she never actually delivered on that promise. But then again, she did try to avoid giving up Lizzie's name when she was abducted, so I'm kinda conflicted over here. But number 8, when Reddington is on the stand and he tells the story of being betrayed by Katarina, he's pretty touched by it by the way. Like the wound's still fresh, like it has a deep meaning, like it still hurts, like he's either someone who really cared for Red, is Katarina, or is Red himself. In my opinion, the third scenario is more probable than any because, and I trust James Spader's acting, that was the tone of someone wounded by betrayal, like the wound is just forever fresh. But he could still be the former, someone who really cared about Red still cares about Red, like a sibling for example. As for the Katarina option though, I do believe, and once again unless we bend over backwards to prove it, then that option has just been put to rest, and for good. But before we get to number 10 and start discussing my new theory over here, there has to be a 9. So number 9, just to present everything and be fair, here's a piece of circumstantial evidence which if more conclusive, I would have stated that the Red is Red theory is now completely dead and that Red is neither Red nor Katarina, but rather someone completely different. So Red tells Liz close to the end of the second hour, you know that your parents loved you so much. You would think that he would say, you know, we loved you so much, regardless of whether he's Raymond or he's Katarina, but he doesn't do that. He says, you know that your parents loved you so much. Once again, I'm going to be ignoring this one, not because it doesn't support my theory, but because it's very circumstantial. That's the kind of circumstantial evidence that I was talking about that people are using to prove that Red is Katarina. But finally though, it's theory time and number 10. So, what is my conclusion over here? Well, I'm no longer fully in support of the theory that Red is actually Red, but as of the end of these 2 hours, I'm almost certain that Katarina is actually still alive. I'm now more certain than ever that Red is not Katarina for reasons old and new, including ones that I've discussed on this video, and ones that I've discussed on previous videos, and others that I've really never cared to discuss, including the fact that John Buckingham did make it clear that this is an absurd theory. Like 2 seasons ago, he did make that clear. But anyway, to talk theories, there's only one way in my opinion that Reddington could actually be Reddington, the real deal. It would also explain why he had 2 plastic surgeons work on him. I'm thinking over here that he went through the process and its reversal. His first surgeon, I think the name was Dr. Maltz, if I remember correctly, and I think I do. You know, the one who Red asked, "Who did you tell about the work I've had done?" That one was basically the one who transformed him from being Reddington into becoming someone else. Then there was the work of the second surgeon, Dr. Koehler. He transformed him back into being Reddington. The objective of the first surgery was to go into hiding, while the objective of the second was to make a comeback, resurface as Raymond Reddington. The man who's already got this criminal reputation, you know, one that would allow him to be feared amongst the criminal society. But if he's the real Reddington, if all of this was a sham, he changed and then he changed back and all of that stuff, why would he not just let Liz know? Like tell her something around the lines of, "I'm Red, I was back and forth through these surgeries, I changed and then changed back, and hence why you might think I'm an imposter." Well, there is the possibility this would implicate Katarina, not talking about legal implication or anything, but rather emotional toll on Elizabeth kind of implication. He would possibly have to tell her a lot about her mother, a lot that she doesn't need to know, that she doesn't want to know, a lot that's really emotionally scarring. Now in this case, the period between Red's first surgery and second surgery was the period that he created the illusion, got these bones, whatever the source is, changed their DNA, or at least dropped a tooth of his with these bones. That would basically create a getaway free card. He might have done that, Katarina might have done that in order to protect him, but nonetheless the objective was probably to create a getaway free card. Now so far in this version of the story, Red's got no clue that Katarina has been playing him, but along the way he discovers that he's been branded a traitor because of her doing. At that point he decides to mingle with the Cabal, try to get the greatest possible gain out of an already terrible situation. Now that either happens after he's killed Katarina and faked her suicide in order that no one really suspects foul play, or after he vows to seek vengeance upon her, after she's been the one to fake her own death and disappear. Now because at this moment, at this point, I'm a firm believer that Katarina is most probably alive, and because I do think that there's a chance she might still be on Raymond Reddington's blacklist, like the #1 on his blacklist. I think the second version of the story is the more suitable over here, and I think that's what they're going with. I know there are questions like, why would Red hide these details if it just proves to Liz that he is the man that she used to think he was? The answer on my end is, I'm not really sure. Why does Red hide anything? There were so many times over so many seasons, 5 seasons so far, that we always felt it was meaningless, you know, his secrets, until of course we realized that there is a solid, maybe a little bit twisted, but definitely solid reason behind it. Now as per the usual, and before I end this video, I'm not saying that this is necessarily the correct theory, the only theory, because right now if I'm to give weights, I would say it's currently a 50-50 chance, and those 50-50 are split between Raymond being the real deal, the real Raymond Reddington, or that he's someone else. The chances that someone else might actually be Katarina have dropped, and in my opinion, to 0%. So the 50% chance that he's not Reddington, that he's someone else, are basically all about someone who was close enough to Reddington, not even close enough to Katarina, but rather close enough to Reddington. I know that the fact that I deny this theory completely might get some of you triggered in the comments down below. It happens in every Blacklist video. But just remember, this is a TV series. You don't need to get all worked up. Just state your opinion, let it go. Also, there's no good reason to actually confirm one theory over another, get worked up over one theory over another, because at the very end of the day, I don't see my name, or any of yours as well, in the writing and producing credits for the series. That being said though, my work here is done, so you can let me know in the comments what you thought of the most recent episodes of the 6th season of the Blacklist. Let me know as well who you think Raymond Reddington is, provide explanations, give me supporting evidence, and try your best not to be so selective, like using selective viewership, presenting a piece of evidence that has been contradicted by another piece of evidence from the series itself, only to prove your theory. That way we can all end up having a healthy discussion. I'm open to listening to anything, I'm open to reading anything, and I'm open to actually agreeing with anything, as long as it makes sense. Let me know as well if you did like this video by dropping it a much appreciated like, subscribing to this channel, and enabling notifications for my future videos, community posts, and live streams. Until the next time you tune in for another one of my videos, the Blacklist or otherwise, thank you so much for tuning in to this theory video, and have a great day.